welcome back or welcome to So Crafty Nana. My name is Teresa and we are working on my pink Christmas journal. This is part 3, and in part 3 we're going to talk about the pages, but I did want to show you my finished cover from the last time. I've sewn around it with a pink, you probably can't see it, but a pink matching thread. Had a little bit of issue sewing up here with the corner, but no big deal. That'll be covered by the pages. I'm not too worried about it, but I feel really good about my cover. I did not sew down the center since that's where I'm sewing in my signature, so I just decided I wasn't going to actually sew with the sewing machine. So I just did a straight stitch around the outside, and I did twice around the entire thing. And I think I set my sewing machine at about 3.5 for the stitch width or length, and just a straight stitch. So I did about 1/4, maybe a little more, 3/8 of an inch, and then between that and the edge. So just, you can't even see the stitching, so it's not even that important that it was straight or anything like that, but it just gave me a good foundation for keeping my lace in place, and I think it looks really good. So I wanted to also show you, I picked up from Amore Fabrics from Selena there, and I will link to her shop in the comment or in the description below. I get things from Selena all the time, and I picked these up because I'm thinking I'm gonna want a little plate on here. I'm not sure. I probably will put like 2025 or something like that, because this is my December daily journal for 2025. And I'm sure you're saying, well, Teresa, this is almost the end of December and you haven't even made it yet. Well, this is true. Life happens, and you know that happens to us. I don't stress over it. I have a little bin next to me here that I have been collecting things through the month of December. So I will be sitting down probably the week between Christmas and New Year's and just filling the pages up. So it's kind of I think it's kind of fun to do that, to just put it all together and then be able to start filling it with things. So I've collected, these are little cutouts from some tags that I cut out on my Cricut. So these were the little extra pieces. So I've got that baggie that I will use. I had an advent calendar from Stampin' Up! So I've already sort of decided how I wanted to create a tag from Advent Day 1. So I put that in a little baggie. So all I have to do is glue it together. And then I have all kinds of other things over here from that Advent calendar. Little stickers. I've got puffy stickers. I've got die cuts. I've got little twine. Those all came out of that Advent calendar. Then I've got bits of wrapping paper from the wrapping paper I used for gifts this year, and so I will probably use that for pockets, or I'll have to back it with something, or I can put it on tags, that sort of thing. So I've got that in there. And then my daughter had wrapped a gift here, and she had leftover this small piece of leftover velvet ribbon, and so she gave it to me and I threw it in my bin, and I'm going to use that in some way on here. I don't know, it may even be something that I put across the bottom and then put this on top. I thought about that. I'm not doing a tie on this journal. I decided against it. I actually thought about using this for the tie, which I could have done, but I wasn't sure I wanted to do that or anything permanent. So I may end up making an elastic tie for it. I just haven't decided yet, so I just skipped that piece. Normally, if you were going to attach ties, you would want to do that at the time that you're putting on your cover, so that you could hide the ends underneath the papers in the inside. So anyway, I've got all those things just sitting over here in a little bin. And then there was a little pack of paper in it, and it's not Christmassy, but look how that goes. So I don't know, I may use some of those papers. It was not the items in the advent calendar were not Christmas themed. but they happen to have the pink and green in them that made them perfect for my journal. So I will use some of those things in my journal. But I am thinking about this. So that would be on the front. I have not decided what I want to put in the middle on the front. I was sort of thinking about outlining. I love this flower here. And I was thinking about maybe outlining it with like some glitter paint. I just don't know if that'll get messy. And then I feel like it might be off balance. So I'm probably going to end up with some sort of embellishment, and maybe I'll do it as sort of a closure and have it be something that you take off. So I haven't really decided yet. And that's something that I can make later once I sort of get the vibe of my journal and how I'm using it or the things I've put in it. Something will come to me. So I just am leaving it alone for now, although I do think I'm going to put that plate on. But I'll do that towards the end. That gets screwed on. It has little screws that come with it. And so I'll just screw it on through here. Another thing that I will do is I will be putting a ring on here, and I'll be doing that when I do my pages. I actually didn't get one out, but I'll get it out. I like to have a little ring up here so that I can attach or detach a charm or, you know, some sort of a tassel. This time it's probably going to be a fiber tassel with maybe a couple of beads in it, just something chunky. But I always make them detachable, and so I will want that ring on there. And again, that's something you screw in. I'll show you that later. So anyway, this is the cover. Today's video is more about the pages. So let me bring the pages over and let me just talk to you about the pages. I'll talk about that in a second. So what I did was I went through and I pulled out some pages that are like, this is just coffee dyed paper. I like always to put something transparent. So I have this vellum paper. It's a little bit heavier. I think I got it from Amazon. And again, I'll try to link it down below if I can find it. Some sort of a map. Now you'll notice that I've already cut these to size, and some of them are folded in different ways. I went ahead and did that sort of prepping ahead of time. So they're not glued down yet, but I'm thinking I will have a side tuck there, or a side pocket. I'm not sure. I may end up just tearing it off. So, but that's how I prep the pages. This is just a regular old sheet of, I think it's 9x12 paper. And so I just folded it down to create some pockets. And I think it's going to just go in like this. I may close up the edges or one of the edges. I'm not really sure, but it'll give several different pockets in that page. And then I like using Braille. I've always gotten my Braille sheets from Amore Fabrics, again, from Selena. Her shop will be in the description. But my brother was blind, so Braille is something that I grew up with. And I even at one point knew how to write Braille with his, you know, I could punch the holes and write things, and I would always make him a card. So that's something that I just like having in my own personal journals. I don't always put it in a journal that I'm giving away, but it does have personal meaning, so I like to have that in there. There's a recipe page. Here's a different recipe page. This is actually antique ledger page. I think this is from the 1800s. It might be the late 1800s. And it is, I was gonna say it's French. I think it is French ledger page that I've gotten. I can't really tell because I can read some of it, so maybe not. But it is old ledger page. Yeah, it is French. And it has the little writing on there. I wanted to include something antique. And again, I just went ahead and did that folding to make it somewhat to the size. You'll notice that I don't have the pages even. I don't like all my pages to be the same size. So that's why some of them you'll notice are shorter. I like them, you know, different sizes. And then we get Okay, sorry guys, this is future Teresa, and unfortunately, there's a clip in this video that I lost sound. So I'm going to try to just describe to you what I'm talking about here. With these pages, these are the pages from the um, download, the digital download that I got, and I talked about those pages and showed them at the very beginning in part one. But I'm just showing you that some of them have lines, some of them have blanks, some of them have pictures basically on all four pages. So I was just going through and showing you what those look like. I did narrow it down to just six of the pages from the entire digital that I purchased, which I had talked about that also in part one. And so now what I'm doing here is I'm looking at the different pages that I have. I typically split them out. So those are blank pages that I make in one pile. Then I do book pages in another pile, and then the digitals in a third pile. And then basically what I end up doing is I go through and I select out, one from each pile, put them in some sort of order. And then I'm going to want to be really intentional about selecting the center page because I'm going to want to put this Christmas tree in there. And the Christmas tree is something that I just made from folding um, music pages. And then I just cut one out, cut a tree design out of a folded music page. And then I laid it on top of the next one, cut the next one out, cut the next one out, cut the next one out. And I think I did 4 or 6 pages. And that is a video from Paper Terrace, and I will link that in the description below. So you can go and you can look at that video tutorial on how to make that Christmas tree. But I'm going to put that in the very center of my journal and glue down the outer pages, and then that'll just be sort of a flippy thing in the very center. So I'm going to choose pages or a center page that's going to go with that instead of something that's like a full scene or something. So I'm going to want something like this blank page that I'm showing you here. So that's an example of what the center of my book is going to be like. Now, I am not sewing that Christmas tree into the signature. I'm going to glue it on top after the signature is sewn in. So I set that to the side, and now I am going to go through and figure out which pages I want to go where. It usually takes me a little time to sort of shuffle them around and decide what I want in what location. I try not to keep similar items together, essentially. And so this is just going to be me showing you some of the things that I've also got ready. So I took some of the leftover Italian Florentine paper that I put on the inside and back cover, and I just glued it with the glue stick, the Uhu glue stick, to a piece of cardstock, a scrap, and then I'm going to cut that into a couple of pockets and probably a belly band and just use that. So that was using up some of the scraps that I had in my little bin. So I did that while I was off camera. So those are things that I'll use when I get to working on the inside. But one of the things you have to think about is what are you going to put on the pages before you sew the signature in? So if I wanted to sew any of these items, like I'm showing you the extra lace and fabric, if I want to sew those down onto pages as edging or pockets, I would want to do that before I sew my signature into the cover. So that's what I'm talking about here is thinking about what you're going to do with your pages before you sew them in to the cover. So now I'm going to go ahead and think about what I want to do, and we'll be back with you in just a moment. Okay, here we are back at my messy desk. Um, so I did a few things while I was away. I went ahead and I cut out a belly band. This will have to be cut down. It's a little bit longer. And then I went ahead and cut those other ones down to about 2 by 3 or 3.5, 2.5 by 3.5, I think. They're not exact, but that's fine. So I think those two will be pockets. I'll probably put a notch at the top. And then I went ahead and I took what was left of the cardstock and I just went ahead and sewed on pieces of this lace. I'll trim it around it, and I don't know if I'll trim it over the edge. I'm not even sure yet, but those will end up being pockets that I will glue in. So I don't think that I'm going to do any sewing in the pages, but I just wanted to show you that those are some things that I will use. So here's my pages as I've put them together. So it'll be like this. And I decided not to do any gluing on these that I've folded over. I'm just gonna wait until I've got the journal together, and then I'll decide what I want to glue down and what I want to leave as a tuck. So this is my pages. There's that little pocket. That. I love using vellum and being able to see through it. Oops. And then that's going to be my center, so I can put that Christmas tree in there. And then I love that, homemade for the holidays. And then here's the other side of that piece. And I can still cut that out if I decide I don't want that extra flap. But what I'm thinking is I may attach something to it, sort of as a tip out or something like that. Same with this. I may end up attaching like an envelope here. That would be something that would tip out. So that's why I'm leaving that. And there's this. And again, the vellum, so you can see this through here. Now I'm gonna decorate this at some point, but I do like the way that looks. And then there's that, and that pretty Christmas tree. And then here's another pocket, and then that, and my ledger page. And then this was intentional. I wanted a sort of a recap page at the back where I can just say, you know, how I enjoyed using this journal, what I liked about this journal, how my December went, etc. So that's the back. So the next thing to do is to organize them sort of height-wise, how I want them, and then we're going to sew them in. So this is going to be a little scary for me because I've never sewn one in on a camera before. So we're going to give it a shot and see how that goes. Just kind of looking from the top to see if I want to move any of these around. Like this one is a short page, so I think I want to move it towards the middle a little. But the rest of them, I think I'm okay with where they are. They sort of stagger, and that's okay with me. So I'm going to go to my center. And I'm really just sort of tapping these down in that center. And then I'm really a stickler for using these bulldog clips or binder clips or whatever, and really getting it tight down. So I'm sort of pushing it down and then clipping all my pages here and clipping my pages here. And clipping up here and up here. Okay, so I feel pretty good about that. Now I'm gonna do a 3-hole pamphlet stitch. There's zillions of videos out there on how to do this. So I'm really not going to talk too much about it, other than the first decision you have to make is, do you want to, let me pull my cover over. Do you want to have the tie on the outside, or do you want to have the tie in the center? And I thought about that a lot because I thought it'd be nice to have the tie on the outside and be able to decorate it, but I am going to do a a ring, which I need to get that and put that in before I bind this in. So I think, but then I was concerned about putting the tree in and having the strings, but I'll just cut the strings short so that the tree can get glued in here without any trouble. So I think I'm going to be okay having the tails on the inside and tying it on the inside. Now, before we do this, I just remembered I do need to grab my little ring, so bear with me while I pull that out. Sorry, I'm back here in my drawers trying to find where I have my ring posts. Here they are. So if you wonder how I store stuff, this is how I store stuff. And here's my ring posts. So I can do brass, and since I'm gonna do the, since I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna want these brass ones. So that is what I'm gonna do there. Those are in one of my drawers back there. I love this organization. So I want one of those and a little screwdriver, or a little screw. And then I have my little screwdriver in my binding drawer with my binding supplies. Little teeny screwdriver. Okay. And then I have my awl over here. So basically, sorry, I bumped the camera. Sorry about that. So basically all you're gonna do is you're gonna decide where you want it. You're gonna poke your hole, put your screw through from the front, from the inside to the outside, and then screw on your ring. So, and you wanna make sure that if you're sewing your pages in, and let's say this is gonna be my top hole for my pages, you want to make sure that you clear that so that that doesn't become a problem. So I usually go about a 1/2 inch down, and I'm just eyeballing it. I'm not going to worry too much about it. It is going to be a little more difficult sewing this with the lace. I'll just tell you that right up front. Because the lace does get in the way, and sometimes I end up having to cut away little bits of the lace, but I'm gonna try my best to do it without doing that. So I'm sticking my little screw through there, and then I will have to try to get it to come through the lace. This is where I end up having to sometimes cut it away with the scissors to just make room or move it out of the way for that screw. Okay, and then I'll take this and just sort of scrape it back. I hope you can see that. I hope I've got that on camera okay. So you can see the screws aren't very big, so all I'm doing is sort of pushing the fabric and the lace away from the screw threads so that I'll be able to screw that ring on. And then I'm going to take my little ring and get it started. Ooh, that one's, oh, I thought that one started pretty easy. Spoke too soon. So let me see if I can keep this up where you can see it. I hope it's focusing. I'm sorry if it's not focusing or if it's focusing on my hands. There we go. So that one went on pretty well. So then once I get it screwed on to where it's staying, I just hold it from that side and then use my little screwdriver to tighten it up. Like that. And that is it. So that's what my little ring is like. And then I'll be able to hook a tassel on there and then detach the tassel if I want to. I love these things, and I get these also from Amore Fabrics. So I'm still gonna need this, and I'm gonna need this. I'm not gonna need that. Okay, so then I do have a template that I usually follow. This is my template. I'm not going to worry about it today. I'm just going to guess But you can see this is about what it looks like. This is a little bit of a bigger journal than what I had this template for, so I'm not going to worry about using this or creating one. Actually, I do have another one up here. I have lots of templates. This one would fit. So I could use this one and do my signatures in there. This is what a template would look like. And so basically you would just put that down and then you would poke your holes. I'll go ahead and do that. And then you would do the same in your, I'm just going to poke through a little bit just to give myself a little bit of a head start. Okay, so I've got my little holes in there. They're not exact. They're not exactly in the middle. You're not going to notice. When you get all these pages in, you are not going to notice if it's exactly in the middle. It's just going to be really full. So actually that is really off center. So I'm going to go ahead and let's thread my needle. This kit I got from, oh, that's a big one. I got from Amazon. It came with the awl, which is your little pokey thing. It came with the 2 spools of waxed linen thread. It came with some other things. I can't even remember what. So I usually do about 3 times, which is more than enough, but I like to have plenty, and this stuff is super cheap. So I did about 3 times my height of my book, and then we have to thread the needle. Oh my goodness. Of course, because I'm trying to do this in a video, it's not gonna go well. There we go. All right, so I like to have a decent amount of thread, and there's my end. I am going to ballpark this pretty much. So it's gonna be about right there. And this is a lot of pages, so just work your needle through the center of the pages until you get it to poke through. Like I said, there are other people out there that do way better tutorials on this, so I wouldn't use my tutorial as a tutorial. I would just say, if this is the first time you're doing this, I would definitely follow somebody's tutorial online. So I'm gonna go through my spine, and I don't pull it all the way tight because I find it easier to get back up through my spine and then into my pages without it being tight. So now I'm gonna find that hole from the outside, which is a challenge, which is why I probably shouldn't have, oops, but I did. Okay, and so that's in that hole. And then what I do is line these 2 up and then get so that I know where I want my hole to start going into the pages so that they're about right. And then we're gonna start right here. Oops. And we're gonna push that through all my pages, which is sometimes a challenge when you have a lot of pages. And my hand is slipping. There we go. Sometimes you might have to separate your pages out and get through some and then get through some more. But I try really hard to go through them all at once. And sometimes just pressing it down on the table is what works for me. So bear with me while I get this done. There we go. There we go. All right. Alrighty. Pull that through. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull this a little bit more. Oops. don't want to pull it out though. That's why I usually try to clip it on with one of these clips so that you don't lose it. So you don't lose that. All right. And then I'm going to come all the way to the bottom. So again, I'm lining up my center and then looking at that hole at the bottom to see about where I need to come through, which is right there. Okay. And I am gonna pause and get through this because this is really hard. So I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So what I did was I used the end of my glue container to push that through. So this is probably too many pages, if I'm honest, but it's what I wanted, so it's what I'm doing. So I'm pulling this through here. All right. All right, so notice that I have this on that side. So when I come back up through the center, I'm gonna wanna come on this side so that I have one tail on each side of that center string. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this through and get it poked through the book or the spine. Okay. Like that. And now I need to come up through that center again without splitting that thread. Sorry if my head's in the way. Have to get in there to sort of see that. And again, with the lace, it's a little bit hard. There we go. So I got below it, so that came up, and then I need to go through my pages. And then we'll pull everything snug once we get through the pages. There we go, we're through the pages. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna pull my thread through and pull my needle off. Okay, and I've got my two tails on the inside. And what I'm gonna do is now just sort of pull each of my strings to get them through. Oops, I did come through that. You see how I did that? I came through that other thread. So I'm just gonna pull those apart because I don't want them to be interlocked. Okay, there we go. And then I'm gonna go to my outside. I'm gonna make sure that I pull everything from the outside tight. And then I've got to pull my inside tight. So we're gonna pull this, oops, pull this, pull this. All right, so basically what I'm looking at is these are snug. My pages are snug here, and I don't have any, and this is snug here. So that's what I'm looking for. And I'm looking to make sure I have one of these on either side. Just gonna tie that, and I always double it. And like I said, I always use extra. I always have plenty of thread. So I'm just gonna trim that off and take my little clippies off, and my signature is sewn in. Now remember, this is gonna be hidden by that tassel that's there, so that's why I'm not really worried about that. You can do, there's so many other things that you can do if that bothers you, having the string on there. It does not bother me at all. But there is my journal with the pages, and we're gonna attach the Christmas tree into the center. If I can find my center. Eventually I'll find my center. There it is. Nope. Okay. Where's my, oh, it's right here. There's my center. So I will be attaching this in here. I'm just going to use glue stick to attach that into the center. And then for inside my covers, I think I'm going to do these pockets, these transparent pockets. So So I have 2 of those. I'm going to do one on the inside and one on the back side. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. These are completely transparent, which I really like. If I can get the white paper off, there we go. But I will say, once they're down, they're down. So make sure that if you are using this type of pocket, that you get it lined up the way you want it before you stick anything down. Okay, and then I'm gonna pull that off, and that goes down. So you can see that's my pocket. Oops, like that I can put something in, but if I don't have anything in it, it still shows the beautiful Florentine paper. So I'm going to do that in the front and the back. I'm going to go ahead and cut these down and add these pockets in. I'm going to add these pockets in. I'm going to decide where I want my belly band to go, on what page, and then it'll be time to start adding all of these beauties that we created and all the other ephemera and tags that that came with that kit, the printable kit. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in, and I will see you back here for the last installment, number 4, which is decorated and finished journal. I might do a little of the decorating with you to finish it up, but it'll be the finished interior of the journal. I'm not going to say the outside will be finished because I don't know yet how I want to do that. So, all right, so I think that that's it for today. This is my Pink Christmas journal. Pages all in. I'm really happy with it. I think it's going to be lovely. And I can't wait to show you next time what it looks like. So I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching my video. Thank you very much for giving me a like if you enjoyed it. Please comment below if you have any questions or any comments. I'm not an expert at this, so any tips you can give, I'm happy to have tips as well. And I really, really appreciate you. If you'd like to see more of my videos, please subscribe to my channel. It means the world to me. Have a wonderful, blessed, Merry Christmas. And I will see you for video 4 very, very soon. Bye.